There's a quiet kind of burnout that no one talks about. It doesn't come from doing too much. It comes from taking in too much. Too much content, too many opinions, too many voices telling you what to do, how to live, what success looks like. And the worst part, it feels productive. You scroll through endless advice videos, watch creators build amazing things, listen to podcasts about discipline, motivation, creativity, and somehow you still end the day feeling stuck. You consumed everything but created nothing. And deep down, you feel it, that ache of potential being wasted. We live in a world where it's easier than ever to feel like you're learning, when really, you're just collecting. Saving bookmarks, screenshotting quotes, watching productivity gurus on double speed while lying in bed. You think you're preparing, but what you're really doing is postponing. You tell yourself you're not ready yet. You just need a little more time, a few more videos, another tip or hack, but creation doesn't happen when you're finally ready. It happens when you start, even if you feel unprepared, messy, uncertain. And the reason starting feels so hard isn't because you're lazy. It's because you've trained your brain to be passive, to sit back and observe instead of lean in and build. Every reel, every short, every how-to clip is teaching your mind, this is enough. This is action. But it's not. It's just input. And input without output becomes noise. You fill your mind with so many great ideas that they start to blur together, and instead of inspiring you, they paralyze you. You can't decide what to act on, so you act on nothing. You scroll for hours and end up feeling drained, not energized. That's the trap of modern consumption. It's not evil, but it's endless. And unless you draw the line, it will keep you in a loop. Always watching, always planning, always thinking about creating, but never actually doing it, and over time, you start to lose trust in yourself. You begin to believe that maybe you're not meant to create, that maybe you're not good enough, that everyone else has something you don't. But none of that is true. What you're missing isn't talent or tools, it's a shift. A switch in your brain that says, enough consuming, let's begin. And that shift doesn't require a life change, it just requires a moment. One clear decision that you'll stop feeding your mind more information for a while and start giving it a chance to express what's already there. Because the truth is, you don't need more content, you need more courage. The courage to begin. Most people don't realize how much their identity is shaped by what they consume. You spend hours watching others create, others succeed, others build something out of nothing, and slowly, without noticing, your brain starts assigning the role of observer to you. You begin to live through other people's actions. Their wins feel like your wins. Their creativity feels like your inspiration. But here's the trap. Inspiration without action becomes frustration. You keep filling up on motivation, but you never use it. And eventually, that fire turns into guilt. You start asking yourself, why can't I do what they're doing? Even though you already know the answer, you're not creating. You're just watching. And this isn't just about art or videos or writing. It applies to everything. Every time you choose to scroll instead of sketch, binge instead of build, consume instead of contribute, you reinforce a pattern. Not just in your routine, but in your brain. Neural pathways are shaped by repetition. So the more time you spend absorbing, the easier it becomes to stay stuck in absorption. It feels comfortable, safe, easy. But ease doesn't lead to growth. It leads to stagnation. To break the loop, you have to interrupt the cycle, not with some massive change, but with a small, stubborn commitment to start creating again, even if it's awkward, even if it's bad, especially if it's bad, because the goal isn't perfection, it's motion. Your brain needs to feel that shift from passive input to active output. That's how the rewiring begins. Not by deleting every app or vanishing from the internet, but by choosing every day to make something before you consume anything. Wake up and write a sentence. Draw a terrible sketch. Record your voice talking through an idea. Just do something that wasn't there before you showed up. That act, however small, reminds your brain, I'm not just here to watch. I'm here to create. And that identity shift is everything. Because once your brain believes you're a creator, you start behaving like one. You stop waiting for permission. You stop obsessing over what's trending. You begin trusting your own voice again. But it takes time, and the world won't make it easy. Distraction is always one tap away. There's always another video, another thread, another algorithm trying to pull you back in. That's why this decision has to be intentional. You don't drift into creation, you choose it on purpose, over and over, even when it's hard, even when no one is watching. Because the moment you stop consuming by default and start creating by design, that's the moment your life begins to change. Not instantly, but permanently. Motivation is loud in the beginning. You watch something inspiring, and suddenly you feel like you're ready to change your life. You write goals, set alarms, make plans. And for a few days, it works. You create, you show up, you feel proud. But then quietly, motivation slips away. You wake up tired, your brain wants comfort again. The urge to scroll creeps back in, and you start telling yourself, I'll just take a short break. But the break turns into a day, then a week, then it's been a month and you haven't made anything at all. You're not lazy, you're just relying on the wrong fuel. Motivation is a spark, but habit is the engine. If you want to stay consistent, you can't wait until you feel ready. You have to build systems that make showing up automatic, especially on the days you don't feel like it. Because the truth is, creativity isn't always magical. Sometimes it's boring. Sometimes it's repetitive. Sometimes it feels like nothing is working. But if you only create when you feel inspired, you'll stay inconsistent forever. The people who actually build something meaningful are the ones who show up even when it's quiet, especially when it's quiet. So how do you build that kind of habit? You start by making it small, tiny even. Lower the barrier. Set a ridiculously easy daily goal. 1 paragraph, 1 sketch, 1 minute of voice recording. Something so simple that your brain can't say no. Don't aim for greatness. Aim for consistency. Because once you start, momentum kicks in. That one sentence often turns into a page. That 5 minutes often becomes an hour. But it only happens after you begin. Next, remove as much friction as possible. If opening your tools takes 5 steps, simplify it. If distractions are always pulling you back, create a ritual, a physical space, a time block, even a piece of music that signals to your brain, this is creative time. Rituals matter more than you think. They prime your mind to enter that creative zone faster with less resistance. And finally, detach from outcome. Create without expecting applause, without needing results. Because the moment your identity is tied only to performance, you'll start hesitating again. You'll overthink. You'll compare. And comparison is the fastest way back to consumption. But when you create for the act itself, just to practice, just to express, you stop worrying about how it's received. You start enjoying the process again. That's the habit you want to build. Not a perfect schedule, not flawless output, but a quiet, steady rhythm. One that reminds you, day after day, that you're not just a watcher of the world, you're a part of it. You shape it with what you make, and that's something worth showing up for. Every single day. The internet is loud, it's endless, and if you let it, it will fill every quiet corner of your life with noise. Not harmful noise, just distracting noise. The kind that feels good in the moment but leaves you feeling empty after. You keep scrolling, watching, listening, hoping something will finally click. Something will light that fire. But sometimes what you really need isn't more input. What you need is to stop, to pause, to sit in the silence you've been trying to avoid. Because only in that silence can your own voice finally speak up. And at first, that voice might sound uncertain. You might not know what to say, what to make, what to share. That's okay. You're not supposed to have it all figured out. Creation isn't about certainty. It's about showing up with whatever you've got, even if all you've got is the willingness to try. And when you do that consistently, something shifts. Your creativity stops being this distant thing you have to chase and starts becoming part of who you are. You begin to notice how different it feels to make something, even something small, versus just consuming endlessly. 1 minute of creation feels more fulfilling than an hour of scrolling. 1 finished sentence feels better than 50 saved quotes. Because you're no longer just absorbing other people's energy, you're producing your own. And that energy builds. Day after day, it compounds into confidence, into clarity, into work that starts to matter. And no, it won't always be exciting. It won't always get attention. Sometimes you'll feel invisible. But invisibility is where real growth happens. In the background, in the quiet, when no one is clapping yet. That's when you're building something unshakable. The kind of habit, the kind of mindset, the kind of inner strength that no trend can touch. And that's when you stop chasing motivation, because you've become the kind of person who creates with or without it. So if you're stuck right now, if you've been consuming more than you create, if you feel like you're always watching life happen instead of shaping it, take this as your sign not to disappear, not to delete everything, just begin. Close the tab, put your phone down, open a blank page, let it be terrible, let it be raw, let it be real, but let it be yours. Because at the end of the day, no amount of watching other people live creatively will ever feel as good as living creatively yourself. The world doesn't need another silent observer. It needs your voice, your ideas, your weird, imperfect, honest creations. And the only way they'll ever exist is if you stop consuming long enough to finally make them.